Welcome to Part 6, Chapter 8 discussion. This was the final chapter of the book before the epilogue, where Raskolnikov finally makes the decision and then actually turns himself in. And before he does it, he wants to see one person, and that's Sonya. Sonya was the first one that he had confessed to. She was the one who said that she would go with him wherever he went. She would wait for him. She had offered him crosses to wear, and he had told her at the time that he would come to her to get the crosses when he had made up his mind and when he was going to confess. And so this is what he's doing. He's asking her for the crosses. And she gives him a wooden cross that had been hers, and she wears the one that Lizaveta had worn, that had given her. And Raskolnikov is remembering when he killed the pawnbroker that there had been a necklace and that it had had a religious icon on it and that he had thrown it back. And he puts this cross on, and I think it's very symbolic. He's not necessarily repentant yet, but he's outwardly making the sign. And he's doing it at this point to please Sonya, to make her feel a little bit better. And he does, in the back of his mind, know that there's something to it. He has repeatedly throughout the book kind of shown that he does believe in a higher power, even though a lot of times he is saying the opposite. He did the last time he saw his mother ask her to pray for him, saying maybe he will hear your prayers. He knows that Sonya truly believes in God and prayer and redemption. And I feel like he's going to her because he knows that he needs that in his life, and he can't feel it himself. He isn't there himself, but he knows that she is. And I think that that does bring some comfort to him. And when she sees him, she's immediately relieved because she was very concerned that he had possibly committed suicide. And so she's so happy that he's back. She, of course, has mixed emotions about that he's turning himself in. This makes her happy in one respect, that he's doing the right thing, that he isn't going to kill himself, that he's going to live, and that he is what she thinks is repentant and taking the first steps. And also, she's really sad because she knows that this now begins a different chapter for her, and that he is going to be in prison for an unknown number of years at this point. So he tells her, don't follow him. He takes the cross and he says, don't follow me. This isn't a procession. He has always really dreaded the moment when the people who he cared about the most would look at him as the murderer. And even though she's known, he's so embarrassed by this moment. He doesn't want anybody to witness, to see him turning himself in, being humbled. This isn't what he wanted. He wanted to be the hero. And so at this very humiliating, humbling moment, he doesn't want any witnesses, and especially not the people that he cares about the most, that he cared most of all, that they would be esteeming him, that now they're looking at him completely differently. And this is really, I think, mostly what he cannot handle. And he even says to her how upsetting it is to him to think about all these people that he sees in the streets, and that he's going to be humbled in front of them, that they're going to think less of him. And so imagine how much more for him to think that she would see him at his worst moment. So he tells her, don't follow him. And he goes out into the street. He's going into the Haymarket, and he gets to a point, he's just in the crowds. He wants to be alone, but he doesn't want to be alone. He's kind of trying to drag it out because he's not excited about where he's going. And he gets to this crossroads, and he remembers when he had confessed to her before, where she says, go to the crossroads and kiss the ground and confess to all the world that you are a murderer. And he just starts to instantly do it. He drops to his knees and he kisses the ground, and he kisses the ground again. But there's a ton of people in the streets, and people start making a lot of comments like, oh, he's drunk, or oh, he's going on a pilgrimage. And they're voicing opinions about his bizarre actions. And so he doesn't say it out loud like he had planned to do, but when he looks up, he sees her. And so she sees him doing what she told him to do. And he turns around and he goes to the police station. And it was just incomprehensible to him, like intolerable that he would confess to Porfiry. He just can't even handle the thought of that. So he decides that he's going to go back to the police station where he had originally been called down to and see the one kind of hot-headed lieutenant who had been very hard on him when he had went there the first time after he had fainted and really kind of gave him that grilling. And he's like, that's who I'll go to. I'll go to that guy. So he goes there, and there's hardly anybody in the police station at all. Zametov's not there. The clerk barely pays any attention to him. And he goes up to the clerk, and then behind him, Ilya Petrovitch, which is this hot-headed lieutenant, recognizes him and begins to apologize for how he had treated him before, basically apologizing for treating him like a suspect. Because remember, after that had all happened, Razumihin had gone about town while Raskolnikov had laid delirious, and Razumihin had gone to the police station and kind of set the record straight about who Raskolnikov was and that it was all a misunderstanding, that he's very sick. And that's where Razumihin had befriended Zametov, and that's how Zametov had gotten into Raskolnikov's circle. And so Ilya Petrovitch is saying, I'm, kind of like, I'm sorry, I jumped to conclusions and I didn't understand, you're a learned man. Of course, you act a little bit differently. And, I'm into learning too. I'm into books. So's my wife. Like, he's trying to really befriend this guy. And Raskolnikov's so taken aback by just the change in Ilya Petrovitch and that this guy is suddenly apologizing and being super friendly to him. And he just mentions offhand that he's, been dealing with a lot of suicides in the city. And, oh, yeah, there was one this morning. Who was it? And some clerk from the other room says, Zvidragailov. And Raskolnikov is just rocked. He's like, Zvidragailov? Zvidragailov committed suicide? And Ilya Petrovitch is like, did you know him? And he's just stammering. He's like, well, yeah, kind of. Like, my sister was a governess for him. Just really, really surprised. He's like, oh yeah, I left a note. He said that, he was in his sound mind. And Raskolnikov's just really shocked by this information. And remember that he kind of thought that possibly Zvidragailov was the person who maybe had gone to see Porfiry, and that maybe Porfiry was Porfiry's like ace in the hole, like the trump card, like, oh, I have somebody who overheard his confession. So I think that the thought of Zvidragailov being dead maybe for a second gives Raskolnikov kind of a relief, like, oh, maybe Porfiry doesn't have anything anymore. If Zvidragailov is gone, then nobody's heard my confession except for Sonia, and maybe I'm free and clear. And so he kind of makes some excuses to Ilya Petrovitch. He's like, well, I was just here to see Zametov, but if Zametov's not here, and they shake hands and Raskolnikov leaves, and he's kind of a little bit elated, like feeling like maybe things are okay. And he goes outside the police station. He sees Sonia, and she sees him leaving, and she's kind of devastated. He sees the look on her face, and he knows that this is what she wants him to do. And when he sees her, he knows that this is the right thing for him to do. And so he turns around and he goes back up and he sees Ilya Petrovitch. And Ilya Petrovitch is like, oh, hey, did you forget something? Like, why are you back? And he says, I'm the one who killed the pawnbroker and her sister Lizaveta with an axe. And the whole place goes nuts. Like, they're just like, what? Totally unexpected. But that is where that chapter ends. And so we've finally reached the end where he's not repented, but he has done the right thing and turned himself in. This will free Nikolay. This will begin his road to atonement for what he has done. There will be some sort of a justice in his sentence served. So that is where we leave him. The next couple chapters are the epilogue, where we meet up with him once he has been sentenced and we find out where he is at now. So stay with me. Meet me for epilogue chapter 1 next.